So I just got off the phone with one of my clients who actually booked a last minute emergency burnout consultation because she told me she felt that she was really hitting the end of the road. That was her words today. And that consultation really struck a chord because in many ways, all the things she told me so deeply resonated with how I used to feel back when I burnt out. And I thought that perhaps if I shared that story with you today on a no-name basis, of course, keeping her identity and all the identifiers confidential to protect her story, you would also benefit from learning about some of the signs and symptoms because I don't think we have those candid conversations often enough. And I wanted to share those with you because I know that it would have helped me so much back when I was burning out, and perhaps I wouldn't have hit the point where I had no choice but leave a career I used to love because there was nothing left for me in the tank and my body and mind totally gave up. So here it goes. I hope that helps you. When we got on the phone today, she was really anxious, visibly so. I could see her looking quite frazzled and really emotional. And I asked her, what are the things that you've noticed lately really changed and shifted? And they're your telltale sign that something has gone wrong, that things have changed. And she told me, I met with one of my friend and she told me I didn't look like myself. I didn't sound like myself. And I wasn't too sure what she meant by that. But then I went back home and I realized that all the things that happen in my body when I get stressed out were happening right now. And she gave me this whole list. And I was stunned because so many of those signs and symptoms are burnout related, but we often think that they're just things we have to cope with. And here's what she told me. She told me she was gaining weight because she was eating like crap. She was soothing her stress on muffins or crisp or snacks. And when she felt really triggered emotionally after a really rough day, what she did would be crash on the sofa, feel totally lazy, and want to soothe her anxiety by eating things that she normally wouldn't eat. She told me just the other night, instead of having a couple of bars of chocolate, she just ate the whole thing. And after one bag of crisps, she was looking for the next one. And she even woke up in the middle of the night, hitting the freezer for ice cream, which are behaviors she doesn't normally entertain when she's feeling well and adjusted. But one of her outlets is food when she is stressed. And I wonder if you've noticed that, or maybe for you, it's not eating when you're stressed, but we all tend to gravitate one way or the other, either by over consuming a particular food item or under consuming a particular food item when we're feeling really stressed out. So this is something I would like you to start auditing and exploring in your own day-to-day. Do you have a tendency to either overeat or undereat when you feel super stressed out, and or to eat things that are so different from what you would normally consume when you're well and perfectly composed and calm? I know that in my case, when I was working in Bigelow and felt totally burnt out, I would have a tendency to order a lot of takeaway foods. And that's really not my style. I love home-cooked food, but of course, if you're running out of time and you're working really late in the office, you order takeaway and takeaway. And I wonder if you've noticed that you start to sacrifice those things that you normally love to do and love to taste, one of them being cooking, for example. If you just used to be someone who would cook healthy food, but now you have no time, so you just have junk food or snacks or muffins on the go, that could be a telltale sign that you are actually using food to cope with your stress. And what else are you using to cope with your stress? We all have some kind of outlet or some kind of coping mechanism. You see, for my client, when we talked today, she told me that she was also really concerned about her shopping and spending. And she said that her husband noticed that the more stressed she was, the more she would put things in her shopping basket. And on a really bad day, he could tell before she even got home that she was having a horrible day by how much she was spending. And she would take those few minutes in between really rough meeting and just add things almost compulsively in her shopping basket and buy and buy and buy. The other thing she would be doing is just this doom scrolling. When you just scroll on social media, even though you're so busy, even though you have no time, but you just sort of endlessly looking for something. And at that point, you don't even know what it is you're looking for anymore, but you're just scrolling endlessly and wondering why the time has just gone by. And guess what happens? You're still busy. You still have all those projects and deadline, but now you've wasted so much time on social media, you feel even more overwhelmed. Have you also noticed that at night you've had a really hard day and you find it so hard to switch off that you actually resort to social media to help you disconnect or soothe your anxiety? But let's be honest here. Do you really find that you feel less anxious after spending half an hour on social medias? Or actually, do you find that you're even more anxious, so you end up spending even more time on social media to soothe even more anxiety? What else do you do when you're really stressed out? For some of us, it could be over drinking. So it could be that you used to be a casual drinker, but now you're actually starting to drink to cope with your stress. I'm not talking about the occasional celebratory drink after a really great day or at a weekend or with your loved ones to celebrate or mark an occasion. I'm talking about I've had a really hard day. Where is my Chardonnay? And this kind of mindset whereby you rely on that drinking just to cope with a rough day. And actually, in certain instances, it can lead to quite dangerous behavior. Another one of my clients told me quite embarrassingly, she was a bit ashamed to admit that on a phone call with me, even though she knew that I wasn't going to judge and I was just going to give her a safe space to express that. But she told me that she actually started to drink a little bit of white wine in the morning to cope with her anxiety, and then she would make sure she would have coffee and brush her teeth so that she wouldn't have a wine breath in the office. If you're seeing some signs and symptoms like that, it means that you're sliding into a direction which is quite dangerous because you're now over-relying on things, be it food, being alcohol, be it anything else, to actually cope with your workload. And I wonder if you've noticed anything else. So what I want to do with you right now is a little bit of an audit. So what do I mean by an audit? I want you to have a think about all the things that you tend to either sacrifice or neglect in the name of work. In other words, those are the things that you no longer do or you don't make time to do because you're too busy with work. So let's have a think. And I want you to really do this with me right now live. As I mentioned it, I want you to think about your work, your life, your career, and I want you to have a very honest and candid conversation with yourself. And if you can, take pen and paper. If you're on your commute or walking, just do it mentally. But let's have a bit of an audit. So think about this with me. What it is that you neglect or have been neglecting for weeks, months, maybe even years because of your workload? Is it your family? Perhaps your husband is saying that he wants to have his partner back, or he wants to spend more time with you, or he misses you, or he doesn't see the best parts of you, or that when you come home, you're always so stressed out. Or maybe your children are telling you that you've become anxious mom, or you're always busy mom. And how does that make you feel that you don't have enough time for your children or your loved one? What about your friends? When is the last time you actually actively made a plan with your girlfriend? I'm sure you remember in your 20s, back when you used to have those getaway weekends with your girlfriend and it was spontaneous. And of course, now you have different obligations, you have family, you have your career. But when is the last time you actually planned a lunch with your girlfriend without having your work phone on the table, worrying about your email notification? How much joy does that give you? How many times in the past few months have you canceled plan or said no to friends because you were, quote unquote, too busy at work? I remember canceling constantly and actually getting to the point where I would end up not making plans at all because I knew that my friends would be fed up with my last minute cancellation. So I thought it would be easier if I didn't make any plans because at least then I wouldn't have to do any last minute cancellation. Do you resonate with that? Or maybe you really want to see your friends, but at the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, you're so exhausted, so tired that things that would normally bring you joy actually feel like a chore. Yes, you want to see your friends, but you're too tired, too exhausted, too overwhelmed to even think about planning it. And once upon a time, planning a trip with your girlfriend used to feel like such a joyful thing to do. And right here, right now, because you're totally exhausted, because you have no mental bandwidth, the idea of planning it is exhausting. What about your vacation, your holiday? Most of my clients tell me they don't even have the mental capacity to plan them. Most of my clients say that they're type A planners and they love to coordinate and be the one that find the best deals and get the best hotels and plan out the whole itinerary. And their husbands and children love that side of them. And guess what? At this point right now in their life, they don't even have the energy or mental capacity to think about their holiday. What about you? I had a client that told me when I mentioned holiday and I said, when is your next time off? She actually laughed and said, time off? Huh. I'll tell you when was my last time off. It was last week when I had to book half a day just to get my hair cut. She had to take half a day from work just to get a haircut because her schedule was so back to back. She was so busy with last minute notifications and meeting added to her diary that she knew that unless she actually took a vacation, she couldn't have a hair salon appointment during working hours. It was just not conceivable for her to step out for just 1 hour and get her hair cut and be back because she knew she would have missed too many notifications or she would have had to be on call or on emails while in the hair salon. What about you? What else have you sacrificed? When I used to get stressed, my skin really, really reacted differently. There is a very strong correlation between stress and your skin. And I wonder if you notice that for you as well. For many of the women that I work with, it's in the form of skin rashes or eczema, or you just wake up and you have those dry patches around your face or around your eyes, or your skin is starting to itch and you have all those really weird reoccurring skin conditions. I can't even begin to tell you how many lotions and potions I used to have just to soothe some of the symptoms of all the skin rashes and conditions that I had, spots, itches, etc. And truthfully, it was all stress related. The less stressed I am, the healthier my skin looks. And it's not just about the looks, it's about the way you feel, because your skin is actually a manifestation of your whole internal biology. When you're stressed out, your cortisol hormone is dysregulated, your liver doesn't function the same, your metabolism is affected, and that can show up with signs and symptoms that affect your skin and even your hair. I don't know about you, but when I was stressed out, I used to have little patches of hair that would just fall apart, just really strange things going on with my hair. And when I feel well and rested, my hair grows and it's healthy. Even my nails. Have you noticed anything like that? Your hair, your skin, your nails? Have you ever thought about the connection or the correlation between your hair, your skin, your nails, and your stress level? Have you ever noticed that when you are on holiday or during your time off, your skin is glowing and you think it's because it's sunny or it's because you're wearing different colors and maybe that makes you look better? And perhaps a little bit of that is true, but it's also got to do with your stress level. What else have you neglected? Perhaps for you, it's your passions, your hobbies. We mentioned cooking, baking. Maybe you don't even have time and you eat crap, even though once upon a time you were that person that loved to cook healthy food. What about your pets if you have any? I have a lot of my clients that say they don't even have time to walk their dogs anymore, even though they love them. And they actually, again, try to throw money on the problem and hire a dog walker. But guess what? Because they do that, they don't have this loving bonding with their dog that makes them so happy and brings them so much joy. And on top of it, they also don't get the benefit of an outdoor nature walk, which is so good for your mental and physical health. What else have you been neglecting? I wonder if you thought about your finances as well. We talked about spending, we talked about shopping. Have you been really wise in your investments or spending or saving strategies? Or do you notice that you've had different behaviors that are related to your anxiety or stress levels? And maybe that's even starting to affect your family. I want to talk about your mood as well. Very often, my clients say that their loved one have noticed that they have different temper, or they're just not quite as patient or loving and kind. It's so nice to know that you can get home and give the best of you to people who deserve it most, your loved one, your family. And yet most often than not, when we get home and we've had such a rough day, we actually don't have that much left to give. And what's left? What's left for the people that you love, the family that you've built? Do they get the best parts of you, or do they get what's left? And what about you? If you don't even have time for your family, your pets, your friends, do you have enough time for you to do anything that relates to your self-care? Most of the time, the answer is no. I remember the one thing that I used to neglect most and above all was my physical health. I really frankly thought that I had no time for that. And I remember a day, this is quite embarrassing, when I was in practice as a lawyer, the lift was not working in my office and I had to take the stairs to go to a client meeting. And when I got to the 6th floor, it's not even that I went through many, many floors, just the 6th floor, I was quite out of breath. That really worried me. I remember thinking, I'm still a relatively young person and I can hardly walk 6 staircases without being out of breath. What does that mean about my heart? What does that mean about my health? Well, no wonder I used to feel like that. I had no training, no physical exercise, no cardiovascular exercise whatsoever. The only type of exercise I used to have was to walk from my office to my office and then to the coffee machine and then back to my desk and to the toilets and back to the desk. That was my cardio for the day. Just think about your heart. It's no wonder that many of the people that I see during burnout consultation actually tell me that they suffer from heart palpitations and they feel very anxious and they have these symptoms of panic attack and feeling really, really on edge and really exhausted and really tired. I wonder if you've ever thought about the disconnect between how little you look after your body and how much you constantly overexert your mind. And that's why there is this friction. And actually, that's why you feel that you have nothing left in the tank. Very often, when we keep on sacrificing our health, we actually start to feel less and less motivation for work. So how does that manifest in your career, in your profession? It actually starts to affect your confidence. Today, I really wanted to touch upon the professional aspect of burnout, that part of your career which is really dependent upon your drive, your motivation, and your ability to show up. I don't know if that's something that you've experienced, but many of my clients say that even though they're up for promotion or they just had a big pay rise or they just had a big bonus, they actually feel less and less confident. They start to second guess themselves and they compare themselves to colleagues in the office and they feel less and less confident. And that's when imposter syndrome can strike, where you're actually showing up on a Monday morning and you're thinking, am I good enough? Am I as good as Emma or Caroline? Or am I as good as my team members? Is my boss still wanting me around? Am I doing good enough of a job? And you're starting to actually second guess everything you do, even though you still have the skills that you used to have a year ago, even though you just got that promotion, even though you just got that big bonus. You're just not confident anymore. And you get home and you think about all the things that you could have or should have done differently. And all those thoughts are haunting you at night. And it's exhausting because you just don't feel like yourself anymore. I want you to think about a time in your life when that was not the case. Do you remember what confidence really feels like? Do you remember when you used to walk into a room and you thought, I've got it? Isn't it strange that you now have more skills, more experience, more knowledge? You've acquired more and more skills, and yet you feel less and less confident. Why do you think that is? That's the psychology of burnout. Burnout actually decreases your confidence. It takes your confidence and it squashes it completely. When I burned out, I was at the lowest point of my confidence. And yet, I would like to think I'm, on average, a relatively confident person and maybe even more confident than the average person. But burnout really affected my confidence, and burnout does affect your confidence. And when confidence goes, motivation goes. Confidence and motivation work together. When you're confident, you're more motivated to do what you do. When you're more motivated to do what you do, you feel more confident to do what you do. So I wonder if you've ever thought about the connection between confidence and motivation. And if you thought about the fact that back in the days when you had this confidence, you also had more motivation. You had this joy for your career, and you actually got excited to do what you do and to showcase your skills. And every project felt like a new opportunity. Is it the case now? Is a new project an opportunity for you, or is a new project dread? Let's say it's Monday morning and your boss gives you a new project. Do you think, what a wonderful opportunity for me to showcase what I can do? Or do you think, this is going to be awful? I don't have what it takes. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. One more thing, I can't handle it. What do you say to yourself? How is that inner dialogue? Is it overall more negative, where you think it's all going to be awful and you're going to fail and you can't cope and it's just one more thing and you can't have one more day and you've hit the end of the road? Or do you get this new project landing on your desk and you think, wonderful, great, I can't wait, I'm excited? That's a really good question to ask yourself. Where are you at psychologically on a Monday morning? Do you feel overall more excited, or do you feel overall more dread and exhausted? If the latter, this is a sign that you could be experiencing professional burnout. And if that's the case, I want you to know that there is a very strong correlation between professional burnout and physiological burnout, meaning what we've talked about, the physical signs and symptoms of burnout, are actually very closely connected to the professional signs and symptoms of burnout. In other words, if you're not physically well, it's going to be really, really hard to continue to thrive professionally. Yes, you may for 1 year, 2 years, maybe even a decade. Guess what? Maybe even 2 decades. But one day, if you continue to stay unwell physically, that will have a negative impact on your professional performance, on your professional confidence, and on your professional motivation. And this professional aspect of burnout combined with the physiological aspect of burnout can then cascade into another negative aspect of burnout, which is the psychological aspect of burnout. So today, I've revealed some of the signs and symptoms of the professional aspect of burnout. And next week, we will dive into the psychological aspect of burnout. If you've listened to this episode and you're wondering where you're at vis-a-vis your burnout journey, I want you to go ahead and take your burnout quiz right now so that you get a better understanding of whether or not you may be on the cusp of burnout. You can very simply take the quiz by following the link below, and I look forward to sharing more insights with you next week, where we will take a deep dive on the psychological aspects of burnout and how we can overcome those together. Thank you, and looking forward to connecting with you very soon.